Rock and Roller Coaster. When is this ride supposed to shut down? Apparently it's supposed to close down by the end of 2025, yet it's also gonna reopen sometime in 2026. So Disney, let me get this straight. You're telling me that you're gonna close, retheme, and refurbish this entire ride in the span of less than a calendar year. You, Disney, the slowest company on Earth. The same enterprise that took 6 years to build a clone of a pre-existing attraction. Yeah, something isn't adding up here, so I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that this overhaul is gonna suck. Rock and Roller Coaster, presented by the Muppets, it's likely not gonna live up to the original. Yeah, bold take, I'm aware. I'm really bringing something new to the table with this one, guys. I've made my voice known about the Muppets overhaul for a while now, and my opinion has not changed. I am not a fan. I do not want Disney to retheme Rock and Roller Coaster starring Aerosmith to the Muppets. Out of all the rethemes that Disney has done over the years, this is one of the most baffling. Yes, it is disappointing that the Muppets, they no longer have a home at Hollywood Studios. The destruction of Muppet Vision was a bonehead move. They shouldn't be placing the Monsters Inc. land in this spot. They should have located it within a different quadrant of the park. But resolving the issue by replacing Rock and Roller Coaster with the memeable frog? It's still racking my brain with confusion. Who greenlit this idea? I'm aware the Aerosmith contract is almost up and Disney, they clearly want to move on, but come on, can't they extend the contract? Is there truly no wiggle room around this? I like Aerosmith, I like the music, I still listen to the music. And for those of you who keep commenting that Aerosmith is old and outdated and Disney needs to move on away from this band and integrate an IP that's more relevant and fresh to today's standards, the Muppets? Really? I'm pretty sure they're older than Aerosmith. Old does not correlate to bad. Have you ever heard of the term retro before? Honestly, the only way I would even be remotely okay with the Muppet overhaul is if Disney, they did a little more than just retheming the attraction. I would prefer the alternative of Disney removing Rock and Roller Coaster entirely and constructing a brand new roller coaster from scratch. Sure, this proposal, it is a more drastic approach. However, I think this would have been the better alternative for Disney. This would have been one of the only ways for Disney to redo this ride and not screw it up. Because truthfully, how can you compare the Muppet version of Rock and Roller Coaster to the original version of Rock and Roller Coaster when this isn't the original? It would be a brand new roller coaster, and it can potentially be an even better roller coaster. Rock and Roller Coaster itself, it's a fine ride, I do like it, but it can definitely be better. Despite Rock being a launch coaster and being the only roller coaster at Walt Disney World that goes upside down, I would never call this ride one of my favorite roller coasters at Disney. In fact, it's not even in my top 3. Guardians, Space Mountain, Tron, those are the holy trinity. Everything else is mid to low tier. And Rock and Roller Coaster certainly slots right into that average category. Yes, the launch is good, the Sea Serpent roll does provide the best thrills, but other than those attributes, the ride doesn't offer much. It's a lot of turning and brake runs with a corkscrew thrown in. If you took away all of the theming, this ride would not stand on its own. Especially in Florida, where there are many different coasters, and most of them are better than this one. By today's standards, this ride, it's outdated. And in some cases, that's fine. It's okay to have an outdated ride. Just look at Space Mountain, that thing's 50 years old, yet I still love it. But with Rock and Roller Coaster, on the other hand, I think it's a little past its prime. The ride itself, it was constructed back in 1999, during the dark ages of Vekoma, the manufacturer, where every single ride that was developed by this company was pure and utter crap. This coaster stood out as one of the diamonds in the rough, one of the best models the company had to offer. However, fast forward 27 years, Vekoma, not only have they been evolving as a manufacturer, but they have been thriving in their field. Today, they are one of the lead innovators in the roller coaster space. Every park and their grandmother wants a Vekoma nowadays. And Disney, they're one of the main buyers of Vekoma. Almost every single roller coaster at the Walt Disney World Resort is built by this company. Guardians was built by Vekoma. Tron was built by Vekoma. These are high quality, high capacity attractions that will last here for generations. So when you compare a coaster like Rock to one of these modern Vekomas, then this ride appears to be primitive, and behind the times it doesn't measure up to the new Vekoma standard. All I'm saying is, this Muppet retheme, it could have been a wake-up call. Disney could have said, you know what, since we're retheming this attraction, let's also upgrade it. Let's get rid of the track, let's get rid of the trains, let's put in a new modern launch system, essentially just building a new roller coaster. Kind of like what they're doing with the Space Mountain over at Tokyo Disneyland. This would have been awesome, but no, Disney, they're not doing that. They're going the lazy route. And it's hard to deny the fact that they're going the lazy route. A 1-year turnaround time? Are you kidding me? That's not enough time to redo a ride effectively. But what about Test Track? Yes, I am aware that Disney, they were able to redo Test Track in that amount of time, but that's only because they weren't funding the project. General Motors was funding Test Track 3.0, not Disney. GM poured over $100 million into that retheme. Do you honestly believe that Disney, they're gonna give the Muppets that same kind of budget? No, they're not. There's not a whole lot they can do to retheme Rock and Roller Coaster besides changing out the pre-show, redoing the station, and changing out the cutouts. That's it, there you go. You got a quote-unquote new attraction. All this can be done on the cheap and in a rapid turnaround time. Not worth it in my opinion. The only way this ride can be better or just as good as the original is if they build a new coaster. Go with the new generation Vekoma, Disney. Actually construct a modern looper. I know it will never be to the same caliber as one of your competitors like Universal, and that's okay, I don't expect it to be. You're a family company. But that doesn't mean you can't have a couple rides that teeter-totter between family and high thrill. Rock and Roller Coaster has always been the closest thing to that type of ride, so I don't think anyone would bat an eye if you upgraded the ride to a modern Vekoma that was a little more intense. Something akin to a coaster like, Phoenix. Obviously scaled down, had maybe 1 or 2 inversions, with a few floater pops of airtime. And of course 1,000 brake runs to adhere to Disney's capacity quotas. This kind of overhaul could have actually made the Muppets version the superior ride. And no one would have bat an eye or doubt Disney's decision to retheme the whole thing. Closing iconic attractions is always a gamble, but replacing them with a ride that's objectively worse? That's where we draw the line. There have been too many terrible refurbs over the last 5 years and I'm getting tired of it. Disney, stop ruining our favorite attractions. If you're gonna do a retheme, you gotta make the ride just as good or better than the original. There's no in between here. A modern Vekoma, that would have been the perfect fix. That would have eased the blow, and I wouldn't care about the retheme as much. But they're not doing that. Instead, they're just repainting over the original Rock and Roller Coaster. So naturally, I'm gonna compare the two, and I prefer Rock and Roll over Miss Piggy, I'm sorry. Plus, something else to consider with the retheme of Rock and Roller Coaster is how will this ride continue to function moving forward. The coaster has been in operation for over 26 years. It's getting up there, and the ride has been breaking down a lot more frequently than when it first debuted. If you may recall, Rock and Roller Coaster has already had 2 extensive refurbishments over the last couple of years. For example, back in 2023, the ride closed in February and didn't open until May. The following year, 2024, the ride closed in January and didn't open until July. Let me remind you, these are just refurbishments, not extensive rethemes. So when Rock and Roller Coaster closes later this year, it will have been the 3rd time where the ride is shut down for a prolonged period. When the ride eventually does reopen from the Muppets overhaul, how long will it be until it goes down again? What if they have to do a retrack? Or replace the launch? There's a lot of variables you have to consider with an older ride type. It would have been better if Disney took this opportunity and just demolished the coaster so they can build a new one. That way they don't have to dwell over maintenance on an aging ride, and they can extend the overall service life. Who knows how much longer the original Rock and Roller Coaster can last? So it would have been in Disney's best interest to get ahead of this and rebuild the ride when it's already going through a major refresh. It's not even like a completely new roller coaster would break the bank for Disney. Again, the ride already doesn't have a lot of theming. They can get an off-the-shelf, high-capacity ride from Vekoma for around 30 to 40 million. And then spend another 5 to 10 million constructing a new gravity building around it, or extending the pre-existing gravity building. This investment would be pennies compared to the grand scheme of things. It wouldn't be too expensive compared to previous Disney attractions, considering that they already have a lot of pre-existing infrastructure, and a newer ride would work better for them in the long run, because they wouldn't have to maintain an older attraction anymore, and they would have a newer one that would hopefully be better than the original. It's perfect! So how come this isn't happening? Disney, if you actually want to advance and redo your existing rides, then do it like this. Don't slap on a new coat of paint and call it a day. Actually put in the effort of doing a refurb and bring the ride to a higher standard. Don't piggyback on what was there before.